Hi guys, Ren here and welcome to the workshop. Now normally I talk about new stuff that I just got and changed either on my bikes or as part of my equipment, but today it's going to be different because I'm going to talk about things that I have used and abused for ages and held up the test of time and numerous kilometers and hours in the saddle. So let's start with the absolute leader of this durability test, and those are the Oakley jawbreaker sunglasses that I've had since the summer of 2015. So that's more than 3 years now, and that might not seem like a lot compared to some other riders' equipment, because some riders use their equipment for 10 years. But then again, I'm not saying I ride a huge amount, but I've ridden more than 50,000 kilometers in the last 3 years. Done more than 100 races, so I think it's fair to say that I test my equipment a bit more than the average rider, and these passed with flying colors as far as sunglasses go. So I have two sets of lenses for these. This clear one that I use in low light conditions and also for sunny conditions. Another prism road that's very trendy nowadays, but an old school red iridium polarized lens. They all work very nice, no distortion whatsoever, so what you'd expect from Oakley. The good part about the jawbreaker frame is the fact that you can change the lens very easily like this, and the sunglasses themselves might seem a little bit flimsy in this state, but actually I've done this, I would say, at least 50 times and no worries whatsoever. And then as for the durability part, the frame is still intact. It has been dropped a couple of times. The lenses are still intact. Nothing has really worn through. They haven't slipped off my face a single time. They haven't blocked my vision for a single time. They have never fogged up for a single time. So yeah, exactly what you'd expect from a high quality, high-end product. And in this sense, you really do get what you pay for. So number one, Oakley jawbreaker sunglasses with their respective interchangeable lens. So the second one are my shoes. Nowadays I use these for training. I've had these since the spring of or early 2016, so also a pretty long time ago when I started using these. They're very light, aero, simple shoes with laces. At the time they were the highest end shoe from Giro, and I've been using and abusing them ever since. It's not the most modern shoe, it's not the most comfortable and not the most supportive, that has to be said, but still after many kilometers on it, more than 40,000 I think, something like 45, because I use the other ones only for racing. Yeah, they really stood up well, apart from a couple of scuffs that I picked up in a crash. They're still together, the laces haven't snapped or stretched too much, the sole is perfectly fine. The heel pad, although it's replaceable, still hasn't worn through. So yeah, one issue I had with these shoes was a relative lack of support compared to my S-Works shoes, and also a bit of a hot foot problem in long summer rides, but that recently has been solved by this Solstar control insert, which makes them nearly as supportive as the S-Works shoes, not quite but very close, and it takes care of my hot feet problem with these shoes at least. So excellent pairing, very good comfort now, and very good support. My sprint power and high-end power definitely has improved since I started using this insole. And yeah, the shoe just lasts and lasts. It has been washed uh, numerous times, and it just keeps sticking on. The outsole is not coming off, so yeah, very, very intact still. Then the next one I would talk about is, I'm sure you all know this is my Madone 9 frame, and I've had it since August 2016. I've ridden 33,000 kilometers on it, and compared to my very first build-up of this frame, I've changed, without exaggeration, every single part, some of them multiple times. So of course wheels, those well, come and go. I've also changed the cockpit this year to an NV setup. One of the very first things I've changed was the SRAM E-Tab group set coming from Durace Di2. Then the saddle, I've changed that from one trigger to a dash, and from a dash to this Berk. Yeah, changed the power meter from Stages to Quark. So yeah, it has been my test bed for a couple of different products, and still it has a couple of nicks and scratches here and there, in the chainstay here for example, or a hit from a stone at the bottom bracket, but other than that, still the paint job is still beautiful. The ride is still excellent, very comfortable, very fast bike. So yeah, it has served me really, really well. Many of you have been asking if I'm thinking about upgrading this. Well, the answer to that so far is a resounding no, because honestly there aren't many better options still. The new Madone SLR, well, it looks better, the brakes are supposed to be better. They are a bit of a weak point of this frame set, so they're alright, but not quite up to the standard of the other features on this bike. But yeah, the new SLR isn't really lighter or more aero. It has a different fit which is less aggressive. That's a minus for me. And if you're talking disc brake bikes, I've already talked about this a couple of times, but for me it's really inconvenient to change to a disc brake road bike until there's a disc brake time trial bike that I like, because then I can't share the wheels. So yeah, this is the third most run piece of equipment. Then if you talk about things that are on this bike, the SRAM Red E-Tab, I've used this for thousands and thousands of kilometers already, and yeah, for me it's the obvious choice when it comes to group sets. For objective reasons, I won't really talk about that now, but still hasn't failed me a single time. Also, some people like to put dirt on the Quark power meters. I've had, I think, if I count for those that I've already sold or changed, 7 or 8 units. One of them had a flaw, was changed in 3 days. Other than that, everything has been perfect. Same for the speed play pedals. I started using these simultaneously with the E-Tab group set to have no clashing with Shimano pedals that I've used earlier. Yeah, some people like saying they're fragile. Well, they work perfectly fine after 33,000 kilometers. I've never had to change the bearings. I had to grease them a couple of times, clean them a couple of times, but that's just regular maintenance, no big deal. So yeah, speed play pedals still running strong, all 3 types. I have these standard ones, then I have the aeros, the time trial bike also running fine, and I have some pavés that I bought recently for gravel riding, and yeah, those stood up as well. Then the next in the order, coming from the oldest to the newest, is my manta helmet. So this is one of the first, I think, aero helmets from Met, and it's a very nice unit. It's not the most ventilated, so nowadays I don't really use it for very hot days, or haven't used it in the summer, but for, I would say, 90% of the rides that I do, it's perfectly fine. It's what I train the most in. It's quite light for an aero helmet as well, one of the lightest aero helmets. And despite from having used it almost every single day for the last 3 years, it still holds up nice. There are no scratches, nothing has come off, nothing has worn through except from the brow pad. But there's another one included with this silicone insert here. I've changed it to that. So the retention system is still working, the ratchet is fine, the straps are fine, no damage to the EPS. So yeah, nice, high quality, durable product right there. Then if we're talking about clothing, I have had this Rafa Aero suit for a very long time as well. It's the first generation. I have 3 pieces of this, 2 blacks and one in that light greens top and black bottom. And some people wonder why this high quality cycling gear costs so much and if it is worth it. But in this case, with clothes, I think it really is, because this has been washed hundreds and hundreds of times without exaggeration, because I use this, well, basically outside from April to September, beginning of October when it's warm. Then I use it indoors almost every single day, and from the last 3 years of abuse, it's still perfectly usable. The chamois is still intact, the sewings are still intact. It's a bit faded now. You can see it's not very black anymore, not super dark from the sun. And these little logos, rubberized ones, are cracking a bit also here, but still perfectly usable, still perfectly comfortable. Hasn't come off in any way, no damage whatsoever. So yeah, quality things just last. Okay, so this is pretty much the summary of my longest lasting equipment so far. Of course, I don't have the chance to test everything for this long, because I generally change a lot of stuff, but these are the ones that have stayed. An honorable mention would be the MV 4.5s that I've been using in this bike, but those are sold now, and I'm waiting for the new 5.6s, which are tubeless and should arrive on Monday. So stay tuned for that if you like to know more about the new wheels. And I think the main takeaway from this is you get what you pay for. So if you buy high quality stuff, and I think even more importantly, look after it properly, then it's going to last you, and then it will help you stretch your investment, and in the long run it might be even cheaper than buying some lesser products. So yeah, that's the point I wanted to make here. Now if you want to know more about other bikes that I've bought and have been used more recently, then don't forget to tune into the channel, and don't forget to subscribe. It's all for today, and thanks for watching.